Inside the green train car, passengers are packed in tightly, struggling to find space under the weight of their luggage. Their tired faces show signs of exhaustion. Just a month after the 2025 Lunar New Year, the wave of people returning home is even stronger than the usual holiday rush. The Beijing-Shanghai high-speed rail, once a prime route with every seat filled, now has entire cars with no passengers. This shift signals potential challenges in the economy. Migrant workers and university students, after searching for jobs in multiple locations without success, are now on their way back home. On March 17, Xinhua News reported that over 15 million people are returning to their hometowns to start businesses. According to online data, in just the top 10 provinces of returnees, the total number of migrant workers and university students returning home in 2025 exceeds 150 million. This figure far surpasses the Chinese New Year travel rush, reflecting large-scale unemployment due to economic pressures. In the hard seat carriage, a man in his 60s couldn't get a seat ticket and had to sleep under the seat. The TikTok user wrote in the caption that someone in their 60s should be enjoying their later years, yet he is still forced to leave home and work to lighten the burden on his children. A teenage girl rides for over 20 hours on a hard seat, drinking tap water out of hunger, while a passerby makes her instant noodles. These are real scenes from China in 2025. A vlogger explained that this phenomenon is not unusual, as most migrant workers are employed in factories, construction sites, or the service industry. With fewer construction sites now, the supply of workers exceeds demand. A real estate agent in Nanjing also commented,
This year, 70% of migrant workers have no jobs. In 2024, the total number of construction sites in Nanjing was nearly 200, but in 2025, the number is expected to drop to around 70. A large number of migrant workers are directly left without work. I've worked in real estate media in Nanjing for 15 years, and in the past, new residential projects each year numbered nearly 200. This year, however, only 17 new projects are coming to market in Nanjing's main urban area, and most are small scale, so they won't require many workers.
This situation stems from Xi Jinping's statement, "Housing is for living, not for speculation," combined with the Three Red Lines policy, which limits real estate companies' ability to borrow and reduces their leverage by imposing restrictions on their debt. Major companies like Evergrande and Country Garden have faced financial collapses, leading to a sharp decline in new real estate projects. On top of that, Evergrande's failure to repay over $80 billion in foreign debt triggered a debt crisis in 2021, followed by liquidation in 2023. This significantly damaged confidence in the real estate market. In 2024 to 2025, new construction and sales continue to shrink, and fewer construction sites are being started. The real estate crisis is partly due to the actions of the elite and policies implemented by the Chinese Communist Party since market liberalization in 1998. Elite acquired land at low prices and took on heavy debt, leading to large profits, while local governments relied on land-based financing to boost their political standing and economic growth. Meanwhile, the public housing security diminished and housing prices increased. Now, with falling property prices and fewer construction projects, migrant workers have lost their jobs while the elites have secured their wealth. Ordinary people are left without work or a way to make a living. Factory hiring has become even more challenging. Most factories are now automated and are primarily seeking workers from the post-90s and even post-95s generations. A recruitment agency said in the current job market, workers are not interested in factory jobs because the wages are too low. Meanwhile, factories are aware that there are many workers available, so they get to be more picky. They look for those with fast hands, skills, endurance, good looks, and prefer women. On March 3rd, the streets of Dongguan in Guangdong were blasted with job advertisements from factories, with hourly wages ranging from 15 to 25 yuan.
Wages in Dongguan are too low. It's no longer a suitable place for migrant workers. Right now, in Dongguan, I'm at an industrial park and there isn't a soul around.
There are no good factories, none at all. Now that factories are left in Shanghai, first, there's Tianman Microelectronics. You have to wear a clean room suit and stand all day to work, and you have to pay for your meals. Second, there is a US company, Jabil's Shanghai factory. They want 20 people, but only 200 applicants, and you have to take a 20-minute factory bus ride. Would you take it for a salary of 5,000 yuan per month? The third is the Shanghai factory of Nanfen Machinery. They only need 5 people because they don't lack workers, and they only want women. The South Korean beauty and health group Cosmax Shanghai factory accepts both both men and women, but only couples are likely to pass. Otherwise, it's mostly women. They only hire once a week. In cosmetics packaging, Ying Shuo runs a crazy assembly line, but again, they only hire women working once a week. Once it's full, there are no more openings. If you want in, it's too late. Wasn't China once called the world's factory? Why are even factories struggling to hire workers? Since joining the WTO in 2001, China's foreign trade has grown rapidly, with the trade surplus with the US rising from 83 billion USD in 2001 to 310 billion USD in 2020. Exports accounted for more than 20% of GDP. China relied on low-cost labor and cheap resources to claim a slice of the global economy, with GDP growing 8 to 10% annually from 2000 to 2020. But what happened in recent years? With the US raising interest rates and tightening international capital, China's foreign trade figures have dropped significantly from 2023 to 2025. In 2024, the total export value was 3.6 trillion USD, down 2.5% from the previous year. The 2025 forecast is a further drop to 3.4 trillion USD, primarily due to reduced demand in European and American markets and supply chain disruptions. The trade surplus with the US in 2024 was only 260 billion USD, down 16% year on year, and is expected to fall further to 220 billion USD in 2025, due to the US imposing higher tariffs and restricting China's high-tech exports. In 2024, foreign direct investment in China amounted to only 120 billion USD, a 30% drop from the previous year. In 2025, it is expected to fall below 100 billion USD, primarily due to geopolitical tensions and unclear policies. Why has this decline been so severe? In 2023, the US banned chip exports and restricted investments, leading to a loss of international trust in the Chinese market. This has caused a drop in foreign trade, a shrinking surplus, and a withdrawal of foreign capital. Factory orders are down, workers are unemployed, and migrant workers are returning home. This is a chain reaction caused by the collapse of foreign trade policies. China, which relied on foreign trade after 2000, is now facing a mess in its economy as foreign trade shrinks, leading to a double blow for both construction sites and factories. As for the service industry, with lower income levels, people's desire to consume is gradually fading. The service industry is experiencing a downturn. Sectors like dining, retail, logistics, courier services, tourism, hotels, beauty, and entertainment, which thrived from 2000 to 2020, are now struggling. While migrant workers and university graduates found jobs easily during the economic boom, with wages sufficient to live on, things have dramatically worsened by 2025.
2025 has just begun, and the domestic market has entered a state of extremely low consumption. The price of a ticket from Harbin to Qingdao is 98 yuan, when no one is buying it. High-speed train carriages are empty. In Lujiazui, Shanghai, a 12 yuan meal with one meat and two vegetables isn't selling. The consumer markets in Beijing, Shanghai, Guangzhou, and Shenzhen have collapsed.
Here's how these industries have collapsed. In 2024, hot pot restaurants and noodle shops in Shanghai and Nanjing started closing, and by 2025, after the Lunar New Year, business was slow. The number of staff in these restaurants dropped from hundreds to just a few dozen. With wages of 4,000 to 5,000 yuan and 12-hour shifts, few are willing to work there. Shopping malls are also facing a closure wave. By 2025, half of the stores in shopping centers in Shanghai and Nanjing will be vacant. Positions of sales staff and store promoters have shrunk from thousands to hundreds. They are still expected to greet customers with a smile, but migrant workers are quitting and university graduates see no future in these jobs. The positions remain unfulfilled. Online shopping has decreased after the pandemic in 2024 to 2025. Courier orders have halved, and companies like SF Express and Cainiao are laying off 10% of their workers. Wages for delivery workers have dropped from 6,000 yuan to 4,500 yuan, and university graduates are not interested due to the workload. Tourism orders fell by 80% during the Lunar New Year. Beauty salons, karaoke's, and internet cafes are seeing a sharp decline in business. By 2025, half of these shops in Shanghai and Nanjing will be closed. Migrant workers can't continue, and university graduates find no opportunities due to lack of skills. The consumption winter has arrived, and the data shows it's hard to bear. In Shanghai, Qipu Road, shops used to be hard to come by. Now, prime spots are up for rent, with landlords only asking for property fees, but no one is renting them. The wave of store closures is spreading. Those running physical stores are shocked after the holiday. Wholesale businesses have no customers, retail businesses have no customers, and many restaurants have closed down. A fruit wholesaler said after decades in the businesses, they never seen a year like this. Whoever comes in collapses. It's true.
Mobile phone stores, chestnut shops, fruit dessert shops, and restaurants have all shut down. Just look at this once thriving commercial area. How many people are actually shopping here? And today is a Saturday. Over the past 6 months, retail sales of consumer goods in first-tier cities have dropped across the board. Shenzhen is down by 2.5%, Beijing by 6.3%, and Shanghai and Guangzhou saw nearly a 10% decline. This indicates a significant drop in consumer spending. Those working in restaurants, retail, and entertainment are facing tough times. The wealthy are tightening their belts, and the poor aren't spending. There are fewer Starbucks, but more Michui ice cream and tea stores. The crowded shopping malls are gone, and high-end restaurants are empty. Nationwide, downgraded consumption is sweeping the country.
The return migration wave is not just cold numbers. It's the reflection of countless ordinary lives. Videos on Douyin, China's version of TikTok, captures the faces of electronic factory workers, migrant workers, and newly graduated university students whose lives are filled with exhaustion and helplessness. A man in his 60s proudly shares in a green train carriage that he's been working at the factory for 12 years. He says he'll work 3 more years to collect his pension, not for anything else, just for old age security. But his eyes are filled with weariness. On March 10th, a 70-year-old man in Tianjin was still fishing for garbage in the river, earning 100 yuan per day. His rural pension is only 200 yuan per month. He can't even afford a proper meal and carries a small loaf of bread and a few peanuts, bitterly saying, "Who let us be born in this countryside?" There's also a young man in his 20s calling his mother at 2 a.m. on the train, crying about a failed blind date. "It's not that I'm picky, it's just that no one likes me." These individual stories paint the full picture of the return migration wave. The economic downturn has made it hard to find work, while living costs continue to pressure people. All they can do is board the green train, carrying their unfulfilled dreams back home. China factories, once a symbol of the country's economic rise, have now become the land of dead ends for youth. On March 10th, a live streamer working at a light bulb factory in Tianjin spoke about earning 13 yuan per hour. Her manager conducts morning meetings to pressure employees, complaining that veteran workers are too slow and the factory is losing money. She asked to do the work of 2 people with less pay after middlemen take their cut. She said, "This wage is unsustainable. I'm planning to leave." In Dongguan, factories are offering 13 to 14 yuan per hour, but after the recruitment agencies take their share, workers earn even less. Some delivery workers refuse to work for 16 yuan an hour because it's too tiring. People complain, "You can't even rent a cow or a donkey for that price." This man became a team leader in an electronic factory in 2008. After 16 years on the job, now feels like his youth has been drained. He tells younger workers, "While you're young, learn a skill, start a small business, and stay out of the factory." I've seen many young people come in full of energy and social skills, but after working in a factory for years, they become slow to react, lose their social skills, and become withdrawn. They lose their youth and eventually get pushed out, just like I was. "I'm a living example," he said, letting out a deep sigh. A recent university graduate, after finishing the holidays, started working in an electronics factory. He was too slow and was let go after just 3 days. He didn't even complete a full week and was not paid for his work. When HR staff came to check the dorms and asked him to leave, he quickly packed his things, not mentioning that he hadn't been paid. He plans to return home and not work in a factory again. On a train, a young man shared that he was working in a factory but was exhausted from constant office politics. He said, "No matter how skilled you are or how honest you are with your boss, someone who does nothing but flatter will always get ahead." He also mentioned his frustration with the factory's supervisors, saying they think they're so important. What are they even proud of? We're just workers. In the electronics factories, a new worker who had only just arrived was struggling with severe stomach pain. He couldn't sleep or eat, and he was unable to borrow 500 yuan from his relatives for medical treatment. He learned a harsh lesson. Without money, you're nothing. He has since returned to his hometown. These stories highlight a harsh reality. By 2025, electronics factories are increasingly automated, with strict jobs requirements based on age, gender, and speed. Wages are low, at 5,000 yuan for 12-hour shifts, leaving young workers physically drained and uncertain about their future. As an example of extreme frugality among China's workers is seen in one case where a worker could not afford to buy a mattress or blankets, eventually purchasing a small blanket after struggling with the cold at night. Another worker ate instant noodles daily, which led to stomach bleeding and hospitalization. A young man chose to take the green train for 11 hours at 90 yuan instead of taking the highest speed train for 5 hours at 500 yuan. He saved 410 yuan, which he planned to use to buy his parents a winter coat. Despite the extra 6 hours of travel, he explained that he couldn't earn 410 yuan in 6 hours of work. Another person lied to his mother, saying there were no high-speed train tickets available. She sent him 1,200 yuan to buy a plane ticket, but he spent only 117.5 yuan on a hard seat ticket for the green train, taking 13 hours to travel. He saved 1,082.5 yuan, which he used to buy a down jacket for both of his parents, as he couldn't earn that amount in 13 hours. A man in a black down jacket with white hair sat at the train station's ticket hole drinking tap water. He wasn't eating and didn't have a phone. Seeing that he was hungry, someone gave him a bowl of instant noodles. It is difficult to imagine how his children would feel if they saw him in his condition at his age. These images raise a question. China once prided itself as the world's factory, so why can't it even take care of its own workers now? On the surface, it looks like US-China trade war, shrinking orders, foreign capital fleeing, and automation replacing low-skilled workers are the causes, but deeper issues points to policy. China insists on cutting costs, even at the expense of workers' welfare, in order to maintain the advantage of cheap manufacturing. People lament hourly wages of 15 to 25 yuan have regressed to levels from 30 years ago. China's wages are now lower than even those of some middle income countries. Ecuador's minimum monthly wage is 470 USD, while Chinese workers earn only 368 USD. No wonder some mock. How can we still talk about the Chinese dream? With US tariffs and companies leaving China, the economic winter of 2025 is worsening. Some predict things will only get worse, leading to major unrest and complete destruction. Behind China's cheap manufacturing lies a larger objective. Some argue that China's focus on lowering manufacturing costs is not only about dominating Western markets, but also about preparing for potential conflict with the West. Cheap robots and weapons rely on low cost labor and resources. The cost of this competition is seen in the workers who are overworked and forced to return home, and in ordinary families that struggle to maintain basic living standards. While the policies benefit the elites and military industries, they leave the lower income population in a state of despair. By 2025, China's factories no longer provide a way out, but rather a starting point for despair. The return migration wave is a reflection of this distorted competition. Marriage pressures also play a significant role in the return migration wave, with dowries becoming a heavy burden for many families. At a train station entrance, a man in his 60s, clearly looking older than his age, smiles bitterly and says, "There's nothing I can do. I'm worried about my children's marriage." He has two sons in their 30s. This year, during the Lunar New Year, his second son had a blind date. Both sides were satisfied, but the other party requested a 300,000 yuan dowry and a fully paid house in the city, which he couldn't afford. The man wiped away his tears, saying that he's working to save up for the dowry and a house payment. In the waiting room, another man sighs, "I have two sons. I just can't afford the dowry and the house." He looks serious, lost in thought, all for giving his children a future. These stories highlight a harsh reality. Economic hardship is undermining families' hopes. The significant cost parents pay for their children's expectations, another painful aspect of this crisis. On the subway, a couple in their 40s squeezes into the crowd. The woman is video calling their son with tears in her eyes. "I'll send you 600 yuan first. 1,200 is a bit tight. Your dad and I haven't reached the construction site yet, and we don't even know if there's work." On the other end, their son asks for a pair of Anta shoes or even Adidas, saying he'll be laughed at the school sports event if he wears something too cheap. She stares at her phone in silence, her eyes filled with tears, her old clothes reflecting their financial struggles. The person filming looks at the couple's clothes, then thinks about the Adidas shoes the son wants. He quietly records a video and posts it on Douyin, hoping the son will see it. The message is clear. Parents have worked hard for their children, and their sacrifices shouldn't be consumed by vanity. Local governments have gained wealth through land finances, while elites have profited from real estate speculation. Ordinary people, however, are facing difficulties in affording homes and paying for dowries. In 2025, although property prices have collapsed due to Xi Jinping's three red lines policy, the number of construction sites have declined and migrant workers' incomes have sharply decreased. However, dowries have not decreased. Data indicates that the average dowry in rural China reached 200,000 yuan in 2024 and is expected to rise further in 2025, according to online surveys. Young people are either forgoing marriage or pushing their parents like the 60-year-old man to leave home and try to reduce the burden on their children. The clash between traditional practices and modern economic realities have placed many in a difficult situation. The CCP's real estate policies and the US-China trade conflict have exacerbated the economic challenges. The 150 million people returning home is only part of the issue, and marriage pressures are pushing many families toward crisis. The responsibility for this crisis lies in the outcome of these policies, which have contributed to the broader social and economic challenges.